Hi everyone, it's 30 degrees here in Florida, and on the bright side, I got to wear my winter clothing. And it's me again from the Nurse Plus. How's everybody doing? In today's talk, we are going to discuss a little bit real estate related topic. Now, I'm no expert, but I'll share what I've learned along the journey of real estate investment. Let's follow me. So like I said before, it does depend a lot on your investment's goal. And that's one of the things that defines whether residential or commercial real estate's being your friend. And of course, there's just so much more in real estate's niche. But in today's discussions, we're just gonna be talking about these two, the perks and the downsides of each one, and see which one's gonna be a little bit more attractive than the other. So if you're thinking about investing in one of these guys, that's considered residential real estate. That includes anything from single home to smaller multifamily units up into 4 units. You got to consider a few factors: capital stack, management, benefits and risk, values of the property, and the ability to scale. When purchasing these property, normally we would go out there and borrowing some money from the bank. And as many people already know, we're going to use conventional loan, which means that you get qualified for the loan amount based on your personal income, your credit score, debt to income ratio. So everything's pretty tied to your personal account. So if the investments goes well, that's good. But if it goes south, well, you will be out of the investments game for numbers of years before your debts get cleared and your credit score gets in a good status again for you to invest. If you want to be a little bit more creative, where you don't have to use your personal income, DSCR loan may be another option for you, but I'm not a loan expert, so you can talk to your lenders about that option to see if it is something with benefits. Depends on your business plan, because there's certain requirements that you need to meet to qualify for DSCR loan as well. Another thing is you're going to put down 20% down payments for your investment property. There's certain different methods where it would allow you to put down less, but of course more mortgage on top of it. So you have to look at your qualifications, your business plan to see if it's good profit margins for you to follow, more of the creative methods. So speaking of capital stack when investing in this type of property, because it comes with higher price tag, the way we invest can be a little bit more creative. Yes, we still borrow money from the bank, but the lender will look at the ability of the investment's property to generate income, historically speaking, and also in the business plan of the future forecast.
So non-recourse loan is the type of loan that money is borrowed against investment property based on its ability to generate income. So that means that none of your personal bank, property, credit score, or other assets being tied to the investment.
And the rest of the capital to acquire these property comes from multiple investors. So that comes to 2 common type of investments model: the joint venture and syndication.
Joint venture is a partnership where 2 or more parties pool together their capitals, being actively responsible in managing the project together. They shared risk and benefits of the project. When some investors do prefer this type of model of investments because the ability to control over the project, while others seeing that when there's too many investors with voting right, they can become head-butted when it comes to decision making, creating a complicated situation. Syndication is the partnership model that is consisted of 2 main group of investors: general partners, GP, or active investors who look for the deals, underwriting the number, signing the loan, and handling daily operations. Next, we have limited partners, LPs. They passively invest their capitals without any control ability over the project, which can be ideal for investors who's truly looking for mailbox money without daily hassles. General partners may carry higher risk, but if they operate the projects correctly, it also means higher returns. While passive investors getting lucrative returns with lots more strategies for risk mitigations.
So when speaking of the profits and the values of the residential real estate, one of the things that can be attractive is the strong cash flow. Now, it does depend on lots of different factors to determine the cash flow eventually, but if we're looking at the very simple basic math, the fact that the price of residential property compared to lower operating expense, you may end up with positive cash flow in your pockets. So when speaking of operating expenses, there are obligations, of course, including the mortgage with interest. Right now, we're looking at somewhere between 6 to low 7%. Next is the property tax and the property insurance. Other optionals or a little bit more leeway for you to look at would be HOA, because it depends on where you purchase the property. HOA may apply. Next thing is the repairs and maintenance and management. That's something that you can juggle around a little bit to get your expense somewhat manageable. And if you do the math right, you might end up being able to net positive cash flow. So one of the downsides when investing into residential type of property or smaller size of the units is that you have to ensure 100% of the units being occupied, or you might have to eat into the profits to pay for the mortgage yourself. So that even means sometimes you have to lower the rents to keep that pretty 100% occupancy number across the board. Investing in these bigger size of property, cash flow may depend on the area. Sometimes it may not be the king, but what we get is a very steady income. So think about a 40-unit apartment complex. When there is a 10 units or 10 tenants moved out, the other 30 units being occupied can also offset the mortgage. So the value of the residential property depends heavily on comps, means comparables. That's the values of the similar type of properties within the same area. Now that means if your neighbor decides to sell their property way below market price for any reason, it's going to negatively somewhat affect the value of your property as well. And it also may take a little bit longer, 10 years or so, to actually appreciate that values for you to see the equity coming back to you. While the value of the residential property is based on what we call the natural appreciations or comps and market values, the values of the apartment complexes based on the ability of the income generated by the investment type. So we call that forced appreciation, which is the very powerful thing when investing into apartment complex. That means we can force the value into the property by doing renovations or adding other stream of income like pet income, laundry, covered parking. So by adding those little incomes every month, you increase the NOI and also increasing the value of the property by so much more in shorter period of time. So most likely you'll be managing this property yourself because it probably not making so much sense to hire somebody to do it. You want to save so much on expenses so you can grow on the profits. Now here's the truth though. I do hire property manager for my own rental property because my investment goal eventually is to be completely passive. So I'm willing to give up that portions for my time freedom. If you do have good renters and love doing the work, if it's your full-time job, then yes, I think it's may worth it, but not everybody is the same. So it will make more sense to justify on the operating expense to hire professional property management, because a lot of actual regional and national property management companies only looking at managing larger assets, at least 40 units and up. So lastly, speaking on the ability to scale in residential property, you're probably going to rinse and repeat the same process. Yes, it does take a little bit longer, more on your own capital and also the time effort. So if it is the passive income you are trying to achieve in investing in residential property, unless you do it right, otherwise you're going to create another full-time job. To scale in commercial real estate, it's the same rinse and repeat process. but you already have a great start off, let's say it's a 20 units owner, and now you invest the same amount of capital entry in another, who knows, 40 units and more. So there will always be benefits and risks in all type of investments. So why don't you start a little bit bigger with smaller capitals, which means you can spread that risk across the board. That's one of the strategy in risk mitigations. Do your research, do your due diligence, work with partners that you can trust, and finally, happy investing.